Mad ash. Katemera ndoina aliyense oyambira zaka 12 kupita tsogolo. Ndikulupira kuti mwayankhidwa bambo komwe eti.
Yasambeka bwina he.
Chabwino. Ndiyeti ntalimbikitse makolo komanso alezana. Kuti alolezana awo alandire katemera amene ncholinga choti atetezeke asagone mchipatala kapena kumwalira kumene ndi COVID-19. Ndiyeti uzadie show auza chipatala zabwere pasikulu pathu pompano. Kuti adzapereke katemera kwa ana onse amene makolo awo apereka chilerozo kuti anawo alandire katemera.
Ziko mahedi.
Luntha Television, bringing wisdom into your home.
Thanks for joining us for our news bulletin. My name is Tandy Wimzumara. Let's take a look at our top stories. Pope Francis describes Catholic marriage as a gift, not a formality. Stakeholders call for enactment of disaster risk management bill. MNAT members move to intensify the fight against trafficking in persons. And in international news, South Africa records monkeypox case. We do have the details to these stories and more. Just stay with us. We start with a story that Pope Francis has described Catholic marriage as a gift, not just a formality or rule, saying it comes with a responsibility and it is not an impossible mission. Making the remarks on Wednesday at the opening event of the World Meeting of Families, the Holy Father emphasized that you do not get married to be Catholic with the label, to obey a rule, or because the church says so, or to throw a party, rather because you want to base your marriage on the love of Christ, which is as firm as a rock. The 10th edition of the World Meeting of Families, which ends on June 26th, includes 3 days of talks from lay Catholics on subjects related to marriage and the family. Mass and Eucharistic adoration are also on the schedule. We have more details in this Catholic News Agency report read by Bernard Wanza.
The World Meeting of Families 2022 opened with a festival of families in the Vatican's Paul VI Hall. Pope Francis and around 2,000 families from around the world also listened to the testimonies of married couples and individuals with stories of overcoming incredible challenges or of serving others. Pope Francis taught families that in marriage, Christ gives himself to each person so that they have the strength to give themselves to each other. He advised them to take courage because family life is not an impossible mission, and with the grace of the sacrament, God makes it a wonderful journey to be taken together with him, so they are never alone. He went on to say that family is not a beautiful ideal, unattainable in reality, because God guarantees his presence in marriage and family, not only on the wedding day, but throughout their life, sustaining them every day in their journey. According to the Holy Father, we can say that when a man and a woman fall in love, God offers them a gift of marriage, a wonderful gift which has in it the power of divine love, strong, enduring, faithful, able to recover after any failure or fragility.
Stakeholders in the agricultural sector, particularly climate change, have asked government to facilitate the process of tabling the Disaster Risk Management Bill, which is said to be in its draft form. The organizations, including Jesuit and Caritas Malawi, have since expressed worry with delaying tactics being portrayed by both government officials responsible and members of parliament in tabling the much-awaited bill. Speaking on Monday during a stakeholders workshop, Jesuit Center for Ecology and Development JCED project coordinator Tione Matthews Pwanda said since 1991 the country has been focusing on disaster response through an act of parliament that was gazetted long ago. We have more details on this report filed by Herbert Katanda.
The bill seeks to provide for the comprehensive management of existing and future disaster risks, for the institutional framework and funding arrangements for the management of disaster risk and other matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. Pwanda said members of parliament should work on enacting the bill to make the country proactive to disasters as it continues to experience climate change. He said there was a need for government to review relevant pieces of legislation and put Malawi in a position to manage the challenges.
Done some visits to the communities in the southern part just to check on how people they are experiencing life after the cyclone itself. And then together with other organizations, we are pushing for the DRM bill to be passed because we believe that bill is helpful and is the one that can help to prepare people to be able to manage the cycles which they experience.
In an interview, Caritas Malawi National Coordinator Chimwemwe Sakunda Njovu said enacting the bill would address numerous challenges the country is facing to address disasters. He said, among others, the bill provides relief to the damage caused by disasters.
The bill really has really taken a role, but I think now, because of the disasters that are coming in, as I've already said that they are recurring, I think it's a priority anyway, so there's no need to change strategy, but just to ensure that these things are putting across, and everyone is understanding why we really need to do this at this point in time. Otherwise, if we are not, I think we'll be having a lot of problems in the future. So the time is now, and I think everyone has a responsibility to take part, and in this case, through our government, the bill itself will come and act so that it's being implemented.
Last year, the Ministry of Disaster Management said it had submitted the bill to the Ministry of Justice. Approximately 900,000 people have been affected by floods, with 190,429 people being displaced and at least 46 people losing their lives to disasters.
State Vice President Dr. Salos Klaus Chilima has denied allegations linking him to alleged corrupt dealings with businessman Zuneth Satar. In a statement, the Director of Communications in the Office of the Vice President, Pelerani Piri, says Chilima finds it curious that to date the Anti-Corruption Bureau ACB has not confronted him with allegations of criminal conduct. According to the statement, Chilima thinks the manner in which the ACB report has been presented may have political or other objectives. The VP has since indicated that at a given time he will challenge the allegations against him. The former Inspector General of Police, George Kainja, has been formally charged with soliciting advantage from Xavier Limited Director Zuneth Satar in reference to 350,000 food ration pack contracts between March and October 2021. Chief Resident Magistrate Madalitso Koswe Chimwaza has granted Kainja bail following an application by the defense lawyers. The state did not object to the bail but asked the court for stiffer conditions. Kainja has since been ordered to pay 800,000 kwacha bail bond and ordered to report to Anti-Corruption Bureau officers every fortnight. The ACB arrested Kainja alongside Mwawi Kalua, another senior officer in the Malawi Police Service, over corruption allegations. Consumers Association of Malawi, KAMA, has condemned the increase of petrol, diesel, paraffin and liquid petroleum gas prices, describing the development as a sad moment for Malawians. Making the remarks in reaction to the development announced Wednesday evening by the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA, KAMA's Executive Director John Capito has advised Malawians to brace for more tough times ahead, saying prices of essential commodities will also go up. Bridget Monoka has more details in this report.
MERA announced the increase of fuel prices on Wednesday, claiming it noted sustained high fuel on board, FOB prices of oil on the international market, and the devaluation of kwacha, which they resolved to revising upwards pump prices of all products to ensure that importees are able to fully cover importation costs and to enable sustained flow of petroleum products into the country. The announcement hasn't sit well with most Malawians, as they are aware that their lives will not be the same again, considering that when fuel prices go up, a lot of commodities also go up. Reacting to this, Consumers Association of Malawi Executive Director John Capito said any upward increase in a commodity is not a present thing, and the increase of fuel is one of the such. While agreeing with MERA over the causes of the price increase, Capito argues that this exorbitant increase could have been avoided if the regulator reviewed the prices monthly as required.
The devaluation of the kwacha by 25% was so huge. One would have expected our authorities to think before they could do that, and what impact that devaluation do to the country. Unfortunately, not even the IMF has given us anything. Why didn't we wait until when IMF had given us something to devalue the kwacha? Now, who is going to suffer? Most companies are going to close down, and that will be retrenchment. Prices of goods and other services are going to go up. Already people are complaining about the high prices. Now it will be worse. Public transportation will go up beyond the reach of every Malawian. Meanwhile, no company is thinking about increasing salaries for its employees. Because if they increase salaries, it will just spiral inflation as well. So what comes next? It is civil strife.
The increase in fuel prices has also not sit well with minibus drivers in Lilongwe, as Thompson Mwanza, who drives Lilongwe to Kasungu route, explains.
Before the fuel hike, transport fare from Kasungu to Lilongwe was at 5,000 kwacha. But with how it is now, people should expect an increase of about 7,000 kwacha or even 8,000 kwacha, which is a lot of money to most Malawians.
One of the business owners in Lilongwe town, Richard Jaborera, said that with the devaluation of kwacha, a lot of things were expected to change, but the fuel hike will affect his business negatively.
As it is now, life is hard for a lot of people in the country, and this fuel hike will affect Malawians greatly, especially us doing various businesses, as it will be hard to reach our profit target.
Making the announcement on Wednesday evening, MERA Chief Executive Officer Henry Kachaje blamed the combination of increased free on board, FOB prices, and the international market and the poor performance of the kwacha against the United States dollar and South African rand.
What has necessitated the price increase are basically two things. Number one, the devaluation of the local currency. The devaluation by 25% has made it very expensive now to import and bring the petroleum products because the dollar to kwacha, which initially we had planned that was trading at around 885 kwacha to a dollar, now it's trading at about 1,031 kwacha, and that jump has significantly contributed to the price change. The second thing that has contributed to the change is the movements in prices on the international market. One of the products that has really had a steep increase in the market is petrol, which has increased by almost 13.8%. So those two major factors has made it necessary for us to adjust the petroleum products in the country.
So, Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA, announced new fuel prices. That's on Wednesday at a press conference which was held at Capital Hotel. From now moving forward, Malawians are expected to be buying petrol at 1,999 kwacha and diesel will be sold at 1,920 kwacha, while paraffin will be sold at 1,230 kwacha. For Luntha Television News in Lilongwe, this is Bridget Manoka reporting.
Meanwhile, government has backed up the rising price of fuel, attributing it to a global crisis fueled by the Russia-Ukraine war and the COVID-19 pandemic. Making the remarks early today during Government Faces the Press in Lilongwe, Minister of Information Gospel Kazako said government is planning to start transporting fuel through railway lines, a situation which will help lower prices of fuel in the country. Well, if you just tuned into Luntha TV, know that you're watching news coming to you live from Bishop Navy Media Center. But before I proceed, a reminder of our top stories. Pope Francis describes Catholic marriage as a gift, not a formality. Stakeholders call for enactment of disaster risk management bill. MNAT members move to intensify the fight against trafficking in persons. And in international news, South Africa records monkeypox case. Proceeding with the news, members of Malawi Network Against Trafficking, MNAT, have called for collective effort towards combating issues of trafficking in persons, TIP, in the country, realizing that Malawi is mostly used as a source or transit country for human trafficking activities. According to the Executive Director of Global Hope, mobilized issues of exploitation of victims of human trafficking and engagement of law enforcers in aiding traffickers in the country, a gap that has been emphasized on to be sealed. We have more details on this report found by Alinafe Piri.
For a long time, government of Malawi and other stakeholders have been on the ground fighting the malpractice of trafficking in person, of which the effort has not come to bear the desired outcomes. Realizing this development and that issues of high levels of poverty and corruption are key factors exacerbating the vice in the country, members of Malawi Network Against Trafficking, MNAT, held a day-long interface meeting at Edgewater Court in Lilongwe, aimed at discussing emerging issues pertaining trafficking in person in Malawi, appreciate interventions being implemented by MNAT members of Central Region, and map the way forward towards elimination of the act. According to one of the board directors for MNAT in parts of Aluwa Jim, the country has an act on human trafficking. However, full implementation of the act is wanting.
Regarding human trafficking issues, I think we still have a long way to go. We appreciate that we have the Trafficking in Persons Act, but in terms of implementing, I think we still have a long way to go. That's why as partners and stakeholders, we've gathered here to discuss on what is it that we can do better to ensure that we are protecting our nation and the population against human trafficking.
In his remarks, Executive Director of GLOHOMO, Caleb Tole, stressed the need for government to consider increasing the trafficking in person funding, which is currently at 150 million kwacha annually.
Currently, there's a lot of issues to do with exploitation of victims of human trafficking, engagement of other law enforcement in aiding people who are engaged in human trafficking. But also we have seen an increase in terms of those who have been intercepted and they may need some support. But also looking at key actors, especially civil society, on how they can get resources. We are also discussing issues to do with TIP fund. We may need the increase in the TIP fund. While we believe that partners are there to support, but we still believe that it is a duty of government to ensure that they have resources enough to ensure that we are responding to issues of trafficking in person here in Malawi.
Members of MNAT further highlighted the issue of the Chinese national Luke, also known as Shushu, for exploiting Malawian children. Hence have called for Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Homeland Security, including Ministry of Gender, Community Development and Social Welfare, to speed up the process of prosecuting the Chinese national. However, they have bemoaned the issue of porous borders in the country and laxity among employees at the airport and country borders who slept on their job while Shushu fled the country. Meanwhile, MNAT members and chairpersons of CSOs are in the middle of talks of mapping the way forward to address the situation as it demands serious intervention. The meeting was held under the project Glohomo is implementing of Tigurane Manja counter-trafficking in persons, which is a 2-year project having commenced on the 1st of July 2021 and expected to phase out on the 30th of June 2023. The project is being funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Alina Fipiri.
The Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, CCJP, has called on the Chakwera administration to improve in its governing policies to allow civil society's work without tension. Speaking in an interview commenting on the progression of the Chakwera administration as it cloaks 2 years in power, CCJP National Coordinator Boniface Chibwana has said though there are a lot of improvements in the ruling of the country, there is still more room for improvement. We have more details on this report filed by Jacqueline Saidi.
The Tonse Alliance-led administration has clocked 2 years in power following the June 23, 2020 court-sanctioned fresh presidential election. With a lot of promises by the administration during the campaign period, Malawians expected so much as they were pulling from a government that had so much taken them for granted. The Chakwera administration comprises of 9 political parties who banded together following the nullification of the 2019 elections, which were marked with a lot of irregularities. Commenting on how the government has fared in its 2 years in power, CCJP National Coordinator Boniface Chibwana has said that though a number of improvements in governance can be pointed, the Tonse Alliance should improve on the issue of the squeezing of the civic space and should also put much determination in ending corruption.
If we talk about some of the areas that the Tonse Alliance, the Tonse administration can improve on, I think there are a number of them. And the first one is the squeezing of the civic space. We have recently noticed the passing of the NGO Act that has been assented by the President. I think there are a number of clauses in that act that they are very questionable and they are meant to squeeze the civic space in the country. So that's one thing that I think this administration has shown that I think it can do better. Again, we have seen corruption being systemic in this country, and we don't seem to be determined in fighting corruption. There have been a number of issues in as far as how the ACB, how the Office of the DPP, Director of Public Prosecution, and the Office of the Attorney General, they are doing their things in slowing down the fight against corruption in the country. That's another thing that can be worked on.
Chibwana has since commended the Tonse administration for leading with a will of political tolerance, which he say was not really displayed by the previous administration. He has called on the government authorities to give room to civil society organizations to do their job without hindrance, as many are also working for the betterment of the nation. For Luntha Television News in Lilongwe, this is Jacqueline Saidi.
Now in international news, South Africa has confirmed a case of monkeypox, the second non-endemic country in Africa after Morocco to do so. The country's National Institute for Communicable Diseases, NICD, has confirmed that the case identified involves a 30-year-old man residing in the Gauteng province, and contact tracing has begun as the affected person has no recent travel history. Scientists are struggling to explain a recent rise in monkeypox cases around the world that are not linked to travel to the African countries where it is endemic. According to the Africa Centers for Disease Control (CDC), there has been a significant increase of the spread of the monkeypox virus on the continent, with a 38% increase in suspected cases and a 12% increase in confirmed cases of monkeypox in the past week. And that also brings us to the end of what we had for you in this edition of our news bulletin. But before we leave, a reminder of our top stories. Pope Francis describes Catholic marriage as a gift, not a formality. Stakeholders call for enactment of disaster risk management bill. MNAT members move to intensify the fight against trafficking in persons. And in international news, South Africa records monkeypox case. You have been with me, Tandi Wemzumara. Thank you so much for keeping me company, and do stay tuned to Luntha TV as we bring you the sports segment with King Major Kamwendo. Goodbye for now.